You all know the famous comic strip Peanuts, right? With population in the United States and Japan. Well, what few people remember isn't special that was accidentally aired. It was June of 2010, right when the show was getting very popular. Being 15 at the time, I was an avid fan of Peanuts. I loved the characters and the story, but I can't watch it anymore after my experience. Every time I watch it, I think about that episode I saw and the horrible nightmares which followed. I just don't like to recall them. I also remember that this episode aired at an awkward time. I was in a local thrift store and I found a Peanuts DVD. When I bought it and put in my DVD player, it was in special I never seen before because the title on my DVD player showed up as It's Your Revenge, Charlie Brown. I was confused by the name, but I just assumed that my DVD player had made a mistake. I decided to watch this special, thinking that it was just a reprint. Anyway, it couldn't have been a new special. It started with the normal Warner Home Video logo, then cut to the DVD menu. The DVD menu shows Charlie Brown with a knife and blood everywhere in the DVD menu. When I click play, then cut to the ice skating where most specials first take place. It showed the characters skating around someone or something. I was confused because the animation wasn't that great. It was almost like one of those unfinished animation. Then the camera panned to what they were circling around. It was Charlie Brown. It looked as though Charlie Brown was being bullied, but not like normal bullying. I couldn't tell because the audio was cutting up and getting choppy. However, the audio did clear up for a moment. I didn't recognize anyone because they were all stock children. The only notable characters I saw were Lucy and Linus. Charlie Brown was being thrashed and thrown around as the other children were chanting, "Kill the blockhead." The more he was getting thrown around, the more you could see that his face was being damaged. It was extremely detailed, almost realistically detailed. It then cut to Lucy and Linus, who were both moving in real time, before fading to a still image of them. It was almost like somebody paused the footage. However, the audio was still playing. You could hear Charlie Brown's screams of agony and distress while the still frame was being shown. The image was of Lucy and Linus just standing there, along with everybody else who wasn't taking part in Charlie Brown's torture. The expression on their faces were terrifying. Linus had a demonic look in his eyes. The image was of low quality, like something you would record off of an old VCR tape. Lucy had a very hardened look in his eyes, almost like he was about to sob. As the seconds passed by, the sound started lowering in volume and went silent. Then, after 30 seconds, the sound cut to Charlie Brown screaming over and over again. There was no crowd noise, just screaming. As the screams progressed, they got even more high-pitched and terror-filled. Then, it cut to the video again. I was obviously disturbed at this point, but was more confused than disturbed. Why would they air this? It was like an episode that wasn't finished or something. The video was of everybody kicking Charlie Brown out of the baseball field, one of them saying, "That'll teach that blowing head." It then showed Charlie Brown running to his house. He ran up to his room and started sobbing profusely. Later, Charlie Brown started talking to his pet Snoopy. He asks them why would they do this to me? What did I ever do to them? Snoopy told him to get back at them, to make everyone feel the pain that he went through. Certain said yes to Snoopy yelled in a very monotone voice, almost as if he were a robot. He explained how they called him fat and said he's nothing but a blockhead, so he'll make them feel his misery. Charlie Brown decided that his first victim will be Lucy. He visits Lucy's house and asks him to come over because he got a new trick for baseball, agrees with the offer. The camera quickly cuts to Charlie Brown's basement. Lucy asks where the trick is, looking confused. Then, it showed Charlie Brown approaching him from behind in a first-person perspective. He was holding a crowbar. Suddenly, Charlie Brown smacked him in the head and he passed out. It cuts to Lucy waking up, tied with his hands and feet bound. Charlie Brown tells Lucy that he will now bully him. It then shows Charlie smashing Lucy in the face with a fire extinguisher. Again, the detail on the damage being done to Lucy's face is immense. The audio then cuts out again, but for only 5 seconds. It then turns back on, but to a scream that doesn't sound like it's coming out of Butters. It was a very loud, ear-piercing scream. It had the tone of a grown woman's voice. The scene then cuts to a picture of Lucy's house with text that said, 12 hours later. I was very terrified by this point. I was going to turn off my TV and forget about it, but I want to see what happens next. It then shows Schroeder, Patty, and Violet at Lucy and Linus' house front door. They knock on the door. Linus opens the door and they ask where Lucy is, and he says that he is staying the night over at Charlie Brown's house. They then go to Charlie Brown's house. The scene cuts to Charlie Brown in the corner of his basement sobbing. The audio cuts to a faint wind noise, then it cuts to a very loud sequence. It sounded as though somebody was playing someone's speech backwards, or as if somebody was speaking in different languages. The video then cuts to a still frame of Charlie Brown sitting there with an expressionless face, with the audio cutting to him speaking in a whimpering voice. It was very faint, but then faded to a higher volume. It consisted of Charlie Brown saying, I killed him. The audio cuts to Charlie Brown saying, in the same voice, God, 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 I'm going to be with God soon. Then, the sound cuts off completely. The still frame lasts for about 7 seconds. Then it cuts back to a scene where the 3 characters walk down to the basement and see Lucy's dead body. They scream in terror. Then they say, oh my God, Charlie Brown, what the hell? Charlie Brown then says, gee, God made me do it. They freeze in shock. Charlie Brown then runs to the top of the stairs and shuts the door and locks it. They then scream, let us out, you blockhead. Charlie Brown then says, God is telling me to kill you 3. You will reveal the fact that I got my revenge. They then scream in horror. They yell something, but it wasn't audible. Charlie Brown walks to his kitchen cabinet, the scream still being audible. He grabs lighter fluid and matches. He spreads lighter fluid around and throws the match, then quickly runs out of his house. The camera cuts to a fire truck in front of Charlie Brown's house. The fire gets put out quick. Then police go and inspect the scene. It cut to them digging through rubbish. Then they dig up Sally's body. The entire body was intact except for his face. His face looked as if a picture of a real person's burnt face was photoshopped onto his face. The look of it was horrifying. It basically looked like a black skeleton face. It then cuts to Charlie Brown crying in an alley. He then pulls out a knife and cuts it into his abdomen area. He pulls out the realistic looking body fat that flows out of the wound. He whispers to himself, I am no longer a blockhead. I am now beautiful. He then starts laughing like a madman. The camera zooms out. He screams into the camera with a demonic look on his face. I am with God now. The episode ends there. It cuts to the normal credits, then to the normal programming at that time. I was very distraught after what I just saw, not wanting other people to see what I just witnessed. I quickly deleted it off my DVD player. The staff member that made the episode was never found or discovered. I tried to forget about the episode, but the nightmares started coming to me. I was so bent out of shape because of the episode that my mother checked me into a hospital for mentally ill people. 4 years later, I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I now reside with my mother. She always looks after me to make sure that I am alright. I constantly think of that episode, and I never stop thinking about it.